Hello everyone, Cindy Saddleman here for the best, worst, and blandest. And this time around, we're not going to do a year like we've done over the past few years here on Game Show Gumbo. This time around, we're actually going to be talking about a company. Now, this company I'm going to talk about is Barry and Dan Enright Productions. They started out in the 50s, had a bunch of hits, but then we realized that a lot of the shows were rigged. So they had to sell off and go into exile. Dan Enright went to Canada. Jack Barry decided to work under people, hopefully rebuild his reputation, and he did. And by 1972, Jack Barry had The Joker's Wild, and everything went from there until his passing in 1984. Dan Enright joined the company a little bit later in 1973, 1974, and he continued to run the production company until 1990. Well, actually, 1991. That's when Tic Tac Toe 90 got canceled. So, for this time, we're going to talk about the best, worst, and blandest Jack Barry and Dan Enright game shows. Now, I had a couple ideas for the best. One of them was The Joker's Wild. But by the time it was in like the early 80s and it had the set change, we had the audience game, it lost a little bit of its luster. Especially because the audience game I didn't think was that great, and also took a lot of time away from the actual game itself. But that was fixed when Bill Cullen took over for the second and last of his seasons. I'm going to have to go with, for the best, Tic Tac Toe, especially the 78 to 86 version. Now, simple format, it's like Tic Tac Toe, but with trivia questions. And that's essentially it for Tic Tac Toe. For Tic Tac Toe. And with good payouts to boot, no matter what version you're watching. I know the 50s version, I think it was like $100 for an outside box, $200 for the center box. I admit I have not seen much Tic-Tac-Toe from the 50s. The 70s and 80s version was $200 for an outside box, $300 for the center box. The 1990 version was like $500 for an outside box, $1,000 for a center box. Inflation is a bear. But it was simple, it was fun, and especially noteworthy is it created the definition of what we consider a mega champion. We look at Ken Jennings, we look at Amy Schneider, you look at Matamodio on Jeopardy. Those runs and their length can be traced back to what Tom McKee did on Tic-Tac-Toe. He ran through, he was on 50 or 60 shows, won 42, 43 games, and $312,700 in cash and prizes. It is rarefied air to win that many games. And then you have it now on Jeopardy where if you win 6 games, that pretty much seals a tournament berth for you. But if you get to 10, 11, 12 games, you're a mega champion in Jeopardy. And that can be traced back to what Tom McKee did on Tic-Tac-Toe. And then the hosting. Especially for the 78-86 version. All of that was mainly Wink Martindale. And he did one of the best game show jobs of all time. Sharp, witty, knew how to console a champion who had won a lot, a contestant who didn't win anything, maybe got dealt a bunch of hard questions and just couldn't get out of it. It was fabulous. And also Hat Day is great too. I mean, take a look at the sweet Toronto Argonauts hat right here. I mean, if I had that hat, if I had 2 of them, I'd send one of them to Wink Martindale to wear and say, hey, this is a Canadian Football League hat. You'd wear it on a Friday. Also, the play-along factor if you're watching at home. Questions are challenging, but not really brain-breaking. They could be easy, but not as painstakingly easy as they were on The Joker's Wild. And if you hear that car sound in the background, you could also win a car on the Joker's on Tic-Tac-Toe. 5 games wins you a car. I mean, it's one of the best. Also, play-along factor with the bonus game. I mean, you could either pick whether you want to avoid the dragon, or you could say, hey, the dragon's in 5. And who knows? Maybe it is. The theme, fantastic. One of the best game show themes of all time. For me personally, it's a top 5. Probably number 3 or 4, but that really depends. And then we got to see an evolution of a host, which is always fantastic, and that has to do with the second host, Jim Caldwell. When you have a guy who was like literally plucked out of obscurity, nobody knew who Jim Caldwell was. And over the course of his one season, he was like, okay, I get it, going cheap. And he was like, okay, he's a pretty good host. And we continue to see that saw that with Top Card from 89 to 91. Hasn't hosted the show since, mainly because he became like the king of the infomercials with RotoZip, Duralube, stuff like that. There's a lot of great stuff about Tic-Tac-Toe. Fine folks again have seen the entire Jim Caldwell season, the second season with Wink Martindale, syndicated run. I hope we get to see a lot of that someday again here in the U.S. Now for the blandest show, there are a couple of ways I could have gone with this. Like, I could have picked a random show from the 50s, but everything had to be simple around that time period. It was, you didn't want to confuse anybody with too many rules or stuff like that. So I had to go later on in the library, and I found the perfect blandest show. Because you had a show that had its own identity, it was fun, and you strip everything away. And that is the second format of Play the Percentages. The original format was a good idea. I mean, trying to guess the percentage of a group of 300 people on who got the correct answer. Then to earn the rest of the percentage points, sorry. Then come up with the correct answer or challenge your opponent. I'll be perfectly honest, I liked the format. Didn't really care too much about the bonus game because it was just trying to avoid the 0. But at least there was some strategy to it. Like, if you got asked a question and they knew the right answer, you could pick the right answer. Then it became survey questions, and then you really had to think about it. But then, in the middle of the run, after the last couple won the bonus game, played the bonus game, they were told the format was going to change and it was become a solo player format. 1v1. And then it became every single boring, bland quiz show that ever happened. One contestant picked one category, another contestant picked another category, and the third category is probably like you had a little randomizer, and it was just a buzzer battle. Not even Jeff Edwards and Judge Von Erich could say it. And it took a bit that it made Jeff Edwards not Jeff Edwards. And the set was also made blander because it didn't have the big reveal of the percentage or the big percentage sign that came out of the floor. It just was not a good show. And it lost all of its flavor. So the second format of Play the Percentages is the blandest Barry Enright show of all time.
It happened! Oh, can't win with it! Oh, no!
I thought about putting 21 as the worst. Because it's the show that kicked off the quiz show scandals. If it wasn't for Herb Stempel blowing the whistle on 21, we wouldn't have found out that the $64,000 question was rigged. We wouldn't have found out that Dotto was rigged. And you would probably see a lot more shows like those that would have would have tinkered with the format and the behind the scenes workings to the champion that they wanted, the champion that would have driven the most ratings, would still be the champion to this day. However, I think that rip-offs are awful. And games that have nothing to them are worse. So the obvious answer is Blank Check. So this was a 1975 show. Art James, who is normally a bombastic and good host, it was just painful for him here. He himself, in interviews, have called it Blank Mind. And to me, that's an even more damning statement. Like, I bet Art James didn't even like doing the show when it was on the air. He was like, thanks for the paycheck, but the show sucks. The pilot for Blank Check actually had Chump Change by Quincy Jones. When the show debuted, it couldn't use Chump Change because that was the theme for Now You See It. So it had this bad rip-off theme, and it was just... why? And the format is a bland word connection game. Like, give me the word that both describes a group of fish and where kids learn. And you would say school. And then a contestant had to guess a number that the check writer would have in front of them. Like, the numbers are usually 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, or a combination of 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. And so, if they didn't guess it right, the number would go into a check. And you repeat the same thing until the check has 3 digits on it. And then, because it worked with the Joker's Wild 6 years later, we had an audience game where the check writer had to guess what prize the audience member picked. If they picked one correctly, then they could go for that 4th digit. And the audience member won some prizes. Yay, who cares? This game was not good. It was gone after six months. And what the set is bland. Like the big light sign for Blank Check or with the numbers and everything, it was not good. Like, the show was just bad. One episode was found. Because it was NBC in 75, I'm pretty sure all the episodes are destroyed or got reused. And that's essentially it. Blank Check is a bad, bad, bad show. And that's it for the best, worst, and blandest Jack, Barry, Dan Enright shows. I'd like to thank everybody for watching. Hopefully, this inspired you to hit the subscribe button. Also, leave the video a thumbs up, or thumb up, or whatever it is that says to like the video. It used to be a 5-star rating, and now it's just a thumbs up or thumbs down, or something like that. Also, subscribe to us on Patreon at patreon.com/GameShowGumbo. If you become a $1 backer or more, you get Anyway, I'd like to thank everyone for watching. Take care. See you next time. Bye-bye!